Hello folks, Scott here with the My Monthly Hero December 2019 kit. This is a Earth Goddess kit celebrating the world. It took me a long time to get my kit this month. I didn't get it till actually Saturday the 14th. Very earth-friendly green tissue holds everything in our kit. We've got some nice twine, nice clean natural baker's twine. Looks like it actually might even be hemp, because it doesn't have any of that twine fraying. Very nice, very eco-friendly. And this is our stamp set this month, featuring this gigantic, big, huge Earth Goddess, Mother Nature, whatever you want to call her, a giant, quite a large stamp. This is 6 by 8, so this is at least 5 inches tall. Beautiful Earth Goddess. There's a deer, there's a bird, there's a fish, plants. Very interesting. I think this is the biggest stamp I've ever gotten in a My Monthly Hero kit. Very nice. There's a world, an earth, a lot of these round icons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentiments. These hands wishing you an abundance of happiness. You are very precious, so take care. Protect the earth. You mean the world to me. Sending my love. I'm with you. One world is enough for all of us. Sometimes I wonder about that. Lovely stamp set. Of course, we get matching dies. We have 18 coordinating frame cuts. So, and there's that great big one for our Earth Goddess. That cuts out the hands and the earth, the butterflies. 18 coordinating frame cuts. And we've got an extra goodies bag with some ink in it. I always love getting ink from Hero Arts. This is a brand new reactive ink palette in earth colors. We've got blues and purples. It's all the cool colors, blues and greens, down to a dark blue that may be a touch purple. I don't think I have any Hero Arts palette ink pads. That'll be fun to play with. And we also have this package of green Eco Glitter, biodegradable glitter. That's interesting. Eco Glitter. It looks like glitter. I wonder if I should put some in a glass of water and see if it dissolves. We got this. This is a half-ounce package of green Eco Glitter, and then 5 little mini brushes. That's everything in our My Monthly Hero December 2019 kit. I guess it's time to show the earth a little bit of love. Here we are, folks. Here's my 10 cards, 9 white card bases, 1 craft card base. I do want to mention right here that I treated myself to a whole ream of Nina Classic Crest Solar White cardstock, 110-pound cardstock. That cardstock is really kind of amazing. Super smooth, super white. It creases and folds beautifully. I guess that you get what you pay for really rings true. That's expensive cardstock, but a ream of 250 papers is like 3 3/4 inches tall. It's extremely luxuriously thick, and that's all my white card bases this month. That will probably be all my white card bases for some time to come. So to begin with, of course, I dive right into that gigantic Earth Goddess stamp on a white card base. We've got really a stunning stamp. Now, for some reason, and I don't do this very often, but I stamped this on a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock with my VersaFine ink, and then I embossed it with some clear embossing powder. You can see the shine on that whole stamp. I don't do that very often. I think that the embossing powder sometimes gets in my way when I'm working in very small spaces, but I thought it was really a nice idea for this, and I love it. I am surprised I don't do that more often, embossing an image that I am going to color. I did reach for my Stabilo markers to color this, and I just worked my way around from the water to the air and the buck and the greens and the grass and the flowers and the fire. I love this stamp. She's absolutely gorgeous. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to put in her arms to begin with, so I went ahead and stamped the earth and the peace sign and the fish and the tree, all four of those images, stamped and embossed those as well, colored those with my Stabilo markers. I had all four sitting by, waiting to use on this card, and of course, the earth won out. I love the sparkle that the embossing gives to that entire stamp. Makes her feel almost ethereal, our lovely Mother Earth. I love the deep blue of my oceans in the earth. I wasn't quite sure what sentiment I wanted to put with this card. I didn't really feel like a lot of the sentiments in the stamp set were particularly appropriate for a Mother Earth goddess thing. So I ultimately turned to my Silhouette software and I created a sentiment on the inside that says, "You go, Gaia." Now, of course, Gaia is the ancient Greek goddess of the earth. She is the original earth goddess. Gaia is one of the Greek primordial deities, and she is the ancestral mother of all life. You go, Gaia. And not to mention that, of course, echoes the "you go girls" sentiment. I wasn't sure what sentiment I was going to use, so I ended up printing this sentiment on just a scrap of white cardstock and cutting that out with one of my Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies. That is using the typewriter hand font. I did cut out this panel with the Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and glued that down to my Nina Solar White card base. Beautiful cardstock. Gosh, it feels like butter in your hands. I think that stamp is really just kind of stunning. Now, I kind of felt like I had conquered this kit with this one card. But I do still have those three other circular images from the stamp set that I had already colored and embossed. So let's make some cards with those. On another white card base, my second card this month features that lovely peace sign stamp. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. That is one of my favorite peace quotes of all time. That, of course, is attributed to Jimi Hendrix. Oh my goodness, Jimi Hendrix said that. Very simple card here. I simply fussy cut that peace sign with a craft knife very carefully and then mounted it to the front of this card using some thin foam squares. This is a Nina 110-pound card base. I sent it through my printer to print this sentiment in the typewriter hand font. I'm even more thrilled with this nice cardstock knowing that I can send it through my printer in my little piggyback style and print on it. Just Jimi Hendrix on the inside. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. And a really interesting, very unique plant peace sign. Now, because of the nature of this kit, we had lots of hero art designers that were doing spinning cards and rotating cards and reveal wheel cards using all of the circular items in this kit. Let's try something interactive that's a little bit different. On another white card base, we've got Balance is the Key, featuring the fish stamp in this set. Now, I thought those fishes were very yin-yang, so I colored them as such, just using the opposite colors on the two fish. This is an interactive card. You can see our little wheel on the side. Balance is the key. I thought it was very appropriate that these fishes would be swimming around, pun intended. This is a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I stamped the hands on that using my VersaFine Onyx black ink. This is 3.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. I poked a hole right in the center of that piece between the hands and die cut a spinning wheel for behind it and stamped arrows on the side of that to show you to turn it. I did print this sentiment on this cardstock again. That's using the Smoothie Shop font for Balance and the Arial Narrow font for Is the Key. Balance is the key. a very appropriate sentiment for most anybody at most any time. I connected our little fish die cut and the spinning wheel die cut through the front of this card with a brad and glued those down nice and tight so they wouldn't move. And I also used some of the Splash reactive ink to do a little ink blending on the edges of our center panel. Then I attached this panel to the front of a white card base that I had added little strips of pattern paper on the two sides. Balance is the key, featuring our two little yin and yang fish. A fun little interactive card that's a little bit different. One more of those round images to go. We still have that tree stamp. This again is on that Nina 110-pound cardstock. Be like a tree. And this is that great biodegradable glitter on this card. I took a couple of Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies and cut out a piece of adhesive-backed cardstock to make a little frame. I covered the adhesive with this green Echo glitter and burnished it all down. Very sparkly, very nice glitter. It looks just like glitter. I don't know how it becomes biodegradable, but I guess it is. I die cut a mat for that tree using one of my Doris nesting circles die and covered that with glitter as well so it would match the frame. I glued the tree to the glitter mat and then reached for my Silhouette software again to print this sentiment. We've got be like a tree, stay grounded, keep growing, and know when to let go. Isn't that appropriate? Again, that is printed with the typewriter hand font directly on my Nina 110-pound cardstock. Be like a tree, stay grounded, keep growing, and know when to let go. Very nice. I thought that green glitter went along with this beautifully. I glued that frame right down to my white cardstock and then added the tree in the mat with a little foam tape. Be like a tree. I thought this was really appropriate considering this tree stamp also shows the roots there. So stay grounded, keep growing, and know when to let go. Be like a tree. Now that took care of my 4 circular images. These were all stamped and embossed with clear embossing powder. All of these were colored with my Stabilo pens. Now we had like 9 little bitty flower and leaf and stick stamps in this kit. And I kept thinking, on a white card base. For card number 5, we've got you are very precious. Now there's a sentiment from our stamp set that I thought was very appropriate for a card. And here we have one of the hands holding a very precious plant that appears to be blooming with 3 different flowers. So that's pretty darn precious if you ask me. You are very precious. I stamped this on a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock using my VersaFine ink, and I just masked the hand and stamped all of the flowers and leaves and stick as tightly and closely to each other as possible. I really didn't mask any of those flowers or leaves at all. Colored those with my Zig Clean Color markers, colored the hand as well, die cut that piece with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I put that on a very thin black mat, and then for the background I took our reactive ink palette, the Earth Tone ink palette, and I swiped it on a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock and took a brush to it with some water and blended it together. The little brown stripe here is where the purple and the light green overlapped each other. That made a lovely brown that matches the stick on our little plant here. I thought that worked beautifully. I cut that out with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die and glued that directly to my Nina 110-pound card base. I stamped the sentiment with the same VersaFine ink. I did trim off the "so take care" part of that sentiment. I thought that was a little extraneous and wasn't really needed. You are very precious is enough of a sentiment for me. I did clear emboss that sentiment for a little shine and a little dimension. I had this all together and I thought it was missing something, so I stamped that little bitty bird stamp, colored it up a bit like a meadowlark, and I die cut that and glued it on the front of the card. I like that since the bird is the only die cut on this card front, it gives a little sense of movement, a sense of maybe anticipation of movement, and makes it definitely distinct and stand out a little from our unique little plant here. You are very precious. I love those hands. I think they're pretty versatile. This is a great way to use all of those tiny little flower and leaf stamps in our kit. You are very precious. I love that ombre background as well. Now, all of these little flower and plant stamps have matching dies, so I figured we'd try and do another card with those and die cut them all out. On another white card base, we've got wishing you an abundance of happiness. There's another sentiment from our card kit, wishing you an abundance of happiness. Again, I simply stamped all of these images on some Bristol Smooth cardstock. I did use my Zig Clean Color markers to color them all, and then die cut them with all of the matching dies. Now I glued all of the flowers and sticks down directly to the card front, and then I added the hands and the little butterfly with some foam tape for just a little bit of dimension. I did stamp the sentiment using VersaFine ink and emboss that with some clear embossing powder. Nice shine there. And for the final touch here, I took a little bit of the blended background that I had used on the previous card, cut a strip out of that, and glued that to the bottom of our card base. A really nice grounding bottom to this card. Wishing you an abundance of happiness. That looks like quite an abundance being handed from me to you. Wishing you an abundance of happiness. I really like the two hand stamps that came in this kit. I think they're really pretty versatile, although they are obviously feminine hands, but that's okay. On a white card base for our next card, we've got a pair of hands that appear to be clapping or something. This is another interactive card, another spinning wheel card. Those hands go all the way around. You open the card and you get, you deserve a round of applause. Congratulations. There you go. There's your round of applause. What a fun congratulations card. I really like that one. Now this background is the same ink palette swiped on a piece of watercolor paper and then blended with water and a brush. That gives us a little bit more of a brush strokey feel on that watercolor paper. It's a little less smooth than what it gives us on the Bristol Smooth cardstock. There's our difference there. This is Bristol Smooth on the left. This is our watercolor paper on the right. I cut that into a 3-inch square and rounded the corners with my corner chompers. I stamped the hands, of course, masking the right hand to stamp the left, colored those with my Zig Clean Color markers. I did cut those out with one of my Doris nesting circle dies. I took a panel of white cardstock, poked a hole right in the center. I die cut a 4 1/4 inch circle to be the spinner. I stamped some arrows on the side there, glued those together through the hole on this top panel so they would spin together. Added a little washi tape from my stash, circular hearts. I thought those were very appropriate for this card. This is a fun congratulations card. I did print this sentiment on the inside of this card base using the Henny Penny font. This is my Silhouette software, which I may remind you is free. And the Henny Penny font, I simply print that on a piece of typing paper. Then I tape my cardstock in place, tape the leading edge that goes into the printer first, send it through the printer again. It prints exactly where you want it. You deserve a round of applause. And there she goes again. A fun little silly pun. But I really like those hands, and I think they look like they are in the midst of clapping. Now, I can't do 10 cards with this kit and not revisit that great Earth Goddess stamp. So let's do her on a craft card base and grab our colored pencils to color this. already used the earth. I haven't used that big bird or those clouds yet, so I added the bird and the clouds on the front of this card. I colored our bird to be a little bit like a parakeet, a really big parakeet. And I colored this whole card using my Prismacolor colored pencils. Came out really nice. It's a little more subtle color-wise because you're coloring on brown to begin with, but I think it's every bit as beautiful as that first stamp. Again, I colored around from water to air to earth to fire. Really pretty. I love that stamp. I did even add a little bit of that nice twine holding our kit together. Titled, nice little bow there. Of course, I've got a fun sentiment for this one too. Unleash your inner goddess. Now there's a sentiment I can see sending somebody. Unleash your inner goddess. I know we all have a goddess or two in our lives. I printed that on a scrap of ivory cardstock. That's using the Brushgeo font and the Arial font together. Unleash your inner goddess. Another great card using that gigantic stamp. I'm going to have to say that's one of my favorite stamps I've received in a My Monthly Hero kit. Now, I wasn't a big fan of a lot of these sentiments. I couldn't quite figure out who I would send a card to that says, "One world is enough for all of us." Do you send that to a feuding neighbor, a mortal enemy, an estranged relative? I'm with you didn't quite speak to me either, but I did have an idea for the Protect the Earth stamp. So for my next card on another white card base, thank you, Nina, we've got a Protect the Earth card with the earth and the tree and the big bird and the fishes all on the front. I stamped all of those on Bristol Smooth cardstock using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I colored those all using my Zig Clean Color markers. Then I die cut them all out. Now, I did fussy cut the earth here because the die in the kit would leave a little white border around the earth. So I used the die to cut a piece of vellum, fussy cut the earth, and glued those together to give it a little floaty, ethereal quality there. I took a 1-inch punch and a 1/2-inch punch, and I punched this green and blue cardstock, which is from our October kit again, I think. This is the neon cardstock that came in our October Hero Arts kit. I, of course, stamped the sentiment, die cut that with the included die as well. All of the cardstock dots are glued directly to the card front. I glued all of the images and the sentiment with a piece of foam tape and then glued the earth to the card front with a double piece of foam tape. So the earth is a little bit taller than the other images. And you won't believe this, but I was not planning on it. I was figuring that I would fill this in with some blue and green sequins and stuff, but when I started digging around in my stash, I found those little bubbles, those green and blue bubbles that came in our Hero Art March kit, I think it was. It was the aquarium kit. I still have a bunch of those left. Those worked perfectly on this card. Are you saying, why did you like this sentiment here? Well, of course, I've got to make it a little bit of a joke. So we've got a Protect the Earth on the front and mulch this card on the inside. Protect the earth, mulch this card. I did print that using my Silhouette software again, and this time I used the Margaritas font and the Calibri font. All of these fonts will be linked on my website if you're interested in doing this yourself. Mulch this card. I did think about using recycle this card, but mulch is a much funnier word, and it also implies that you are giving something back to the earth. So protect the earth. Mulch this card. So now I have used every image stamp in this stamp set, most of them twice. And I had one more idea for, of course, You Mean the World to Me is a perfect sentiment. But for my image, I jumped out of this set, although I kept with the Hero Arts. So this is thanks to a little Christmas present I got for my last card. Again, on that Nina 110-pound card base, we've got You Mean the World to Me, a nice galaxy card with a world floating in the middle of that. That is the Hero Arts From the Vault Earth stamp. Now, I asked Santa for this stamp long before I knew that our December kit would have an Earth in it. And I really, really love this stamp. I love all the detailed dots and the old-fashioned, almost retro feel that it has. It's a great stamp. I love the fact that you can add just a little bit of color to it and that Earth comes to life. I actually stamped that on a scrap of my Nina 110-pound cardstock and colored that with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers. That Nina cardstock is supposed to be great with alcohol markers. I stamped the sentiment on the same piece of cardstock, die cut that out with the included circle die in our kit, and did a little bit of ink blending on the edges with some black soot distress ink. I put some double foam dots behind this one, some single foam dots behind this one, and then I turned to my background. On watercolor paper, I used Brusho black pigment powders with some water. I also used the Hero Hues Creamsicle, Blue Raspberry, and Taffy ink pads to do a little bit of ink blending to fill in the white spaces, and then I went back around all of the edges with that black soot distress ink, just using my mini ink blenders. I really like this great galaxy. I did use some of my permanent white gouache paint to splatter some stars in the background, and I actually used my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to splatter some glitter on the background too. There you go. I think you can see that there. Nice glitter in the sky, a really fun background. I almost turned to my Galaxy washi tape, but I thought it had been a while since I actually created my own Galaxy background. This is really pretty. I'm very pleased with this. You Mean the World to Me. This is a great card for Valentine's, for an anniversary, for just a general love card. I did die cut my watercolor paper with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. I glued that right down to my Nina cardstock and then mounted our two images using foam tape. A really fun, really pretty card. I love that From the Vault Earth stamp from Hero Arts. So that's my 10 cards using the My Monthly Hero December 2019 Earth Goddess kit. I tell you, I was about ready to throw in the towel at card number 5. Once I had used all those little flower stamps, I was like, I'm done. It's the holidays. I'm going to stop. But I had a couple of ideas that kept niggling at my mind. So I went ahead and created 10 cards for you all this month. I'm sorry it's a little bit late, but happy holidays. Now, I didn't quite use all of the stamps in the stamp set. I didn't use the One World sentiment. I didn't use the I'm With You sentiment. I didn't use the Sending My Love sentiment. And you know, I guess I didn't use that circle stamp either. It's pretty close. I used almost all of the image stamps in that set. I'm really pleased with this nice assortment of cards. I think these are pretty useful cards. We've got a nice batch of encouragement cards. Most of these are encouragement cards, a couple of Valentine or love cards, and a couple of Earth cards too, if you want to call it that. I'm really pleased with how colorful and fun these cards came out for our middle of winter doldrums. Now, believe it or not, this kit is still available at Hero Arts. If I've managed to pique your imagination or sparked an idea or two in your crafty minds, please use my link in the description down below. When you do go shopping at Hero Arts, it is always greatly appreciated. This kit marks an actual solid year of Hero Arts kits. From January to December, I've done 10 cards with all 12 Hero Art kits this year. Woo! Woo! I think that's an accomplishment right in itself. I have to thank all of you so much for your support and encouragement. That's what keeps me inspired. I love hearing from all of you Hero Arts fans and comparing notes and sharing ideas. I am slowly approaching the 5,000 mark on my YouTube subscriptions. I promise when we hit 5,000, we'll do some kind of a fun giveaway for as many people as possible. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. Please remember to like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Let's get us up to 5,000 subscribers. And remember, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. Thank you so much. I want to send my love and best wishes to all of you and your families for a happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. And I will see you all in 2020. Happy crafting. If you'd like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at CardCutups.com.